Dun, 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 dun. I love the new music. Hey,
We're
everybody. Sorry, I
back.
just jumped right in.
We're back. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Melanated Way. I'm Linda Antwi. Of course, we have April Holloway in the house. We're covering all things season 2, episode 2 of 90 Day The Last Resort. And I got to tell you guys, we've missed you. I do want to say real quick, please continue to send your prayers to Southern California. It is a really difficult time and people are stressed, people are sad, people are losing all of their worldly possessions. And so any way you can help, whether that's prayer, a kind word, checking in on people. I will tell you this, it can be very overwhelming because every person you've ever met in your entire life is checking in on you and hoping that you're okay. So if people don't get back to you right away, or if they send like just a mass response, then be okay with that because there's a lot going on right now. So that being said, I also want to specifically talk about Altadena, which is, I just recently found out was a historically Black community with a lot of pioneers in the Los Angeles area losing their homes, and a lot of them are like 80, 90 years old, and the resilience that I'm seeing with them saying I'll start over is incredible, but it's also very sad. And so a lot of the mainstream media is not covering that, and I really hope that if you want to get involved, or if you want to donate or volunteer your time or whatever, please look into Altadena because we need to take care of our elderly. That being said, hello live chat, Vanessa, Raydella, Joslo, all you guys, we've missed you. Thank you for joining us today. April, do you want to say a little something before we jump right in?
No. I'm just excited to be here, you guys. I'm so bubbly. Today has been so long. I've been looking forward to this time for us to chat together.
Oh, I love that. All right. The Last Straw, season 2, episode 2, 90 Day The Last Resort. The couples, y'all, this season, like, I just blew through it. And I'm rewatching because there's so much in every episode that I'm just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So issues all across the board, which reminds me that, relationships aren't easy and both people need to want it, and they both need to 100% communicate and put an effort in. And that is not, my friend April, what we are seeing in these couples.
Except for who? Who's our exception?
My
favorite, Florian, because you know what Florian does? I know how many times this woman breathes in a day.
Listen, one of my notes is Florian gives good advice. Like, Florian, whatever you say about Florian, he gives good advice and he knows what he's talking about. He may not think it pertains to him, but he's excellent at dishing out really great advice. So let's start. What I thought we'd do is go through each couple and then talk about the activity at the end.
Okay.
Or should we start with the activity?
It's your world. We're just living in it. Whatever Linda wants to do.
Let's start with the couples. Okay, so Ari and Bini. You want to go first?
I have beef with the therapist starting this episode because I'm upset that Bini is fully expressing himself, I think, the best way he can, and he's being characterized as angry. That's not what I saw. I saw somebody who was just saying how he felt. And also, if you have somebody, and well, I'm not a therapist, so I don't know, but I'm just guessing. If you have somebody who is actively being abused, in this case, controlled, why are you forcing them to negotiate with the other person?
Oh, is that it?
I mean, I could say more, but it's
okay. So
we disagree. We disagree. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so I think Benny's being a jerk. I think he's being a
Mm-hmm.
complete jerk, and I agree with you with this. I think, and like I said last week, I'm not into colonizing ways, and I do think that Ari is controlling him. She's trying to control the relationship and make Benny into the person that she wants him to be. However, you guys are 5 years in, you know who Benny is. However, Benny's not taking responsibility, in my opinion, for his cheating ways. Benny has cheated. Like, let's get that straight. And for him to continue to call his wife a liar and to disrespect her by like shaking her hand. And in this episode, when she was talking about like her word was affection and she wanted to do the piggyback ride. And then he was like, no, I don't want to. My back hurts. I was like, see, you've checked out. And it's okay to check out, but go ahead and say, I've checked out and I don't want this. So when the therapist came to the room and said, do you want to be in this? And he said, yeah, I want to work on it. And she said, well, you've never said, I want to work and be with my wife. You said, I want my social media. That's all you've said. So it sounds to me like you're just here to get your social media, which, you know, goes to what you're saying, April. Like he wants control back of his life. However, I don't think his intentions for this couples therapy is really to mend his relationship. I think he's like, you know what? I got to put in the work and do the dance so that I can get what I want. And then I'm going to peace out.
Well, how do we know? I feel like let's make it a different example, right? How do we know if one person has a pressing issue that makes them feel like they're not an equal in the relationship, and that issue can be resolved? It can be easily resolved. She could just give them the passwords back, right? How do we know whether he can or cannot work on the underlying issue if the person refuses the easy resolution?
What's the easy resolution? Give him his passwords back?
Yeah.
She gave him his password back. He'd bounce. He'd be out of there.
In that case, that's the end, Ari. Then that's the end, Ari. You shouldn't want to be with someone only if you can control them, only if you can hold them hostage to you.
I agree. But I also think that when someone cheats on you, that fundamental trust is gone. And so she's trying to hold on to anything that she can hold on to because she wants to keep her family together. And like when they were doing the activity and she's like, well, this is the person that I chose to marry. Well, okay, Ari, I know I'm going back and forth on this because I don't like cheaters, but I also don't like colonizers. So like I'm stuck, right? And last week I told you this is the couple.
I think it's perfectly fine to like Ari. I said last time that I liked Ari. You know, I think it's fine to like her, but also know that what she's doing is wrong. I once was cheated on, and now that the statute of limitations has passed, I can tell you that I destroyed that man's vehicle. That was still wrong. It was still wrong. Did it feel good in the moment? Yeah, every single time something broke, it felt great. Every swing and a hit, every connect felt great. But was it wrong? Yes, it was wrong. So I'm saying, like, you can not like a cheater and still say, Ari, you can't hold that man's passwords like that. You can't hold him hostage to the situation. You'll never know if he really wants to be there with you so long as you're doing that.
But so
she doesn't know where to go from here.
Where do we go from here? So on the one hand, destroy vehicle, okay. Relationship over. Holding passwords, not so good. You're terrible. Relationship over. I feel like
well, what I'm saying, like, I'm not saying they're the same. What I'm saying is that yes, somebody cheating on you can lead you to do irrational things. Okay, it can lead you to do irrational things, but it doesn't make it okay. Just because you sympathize with the cheatee, the cheated on, the aggrieved party. Just because you sympathize with the aggrieved party does not make it okay.
We always learn something new about April.
Middle school softball. Don't play with me.
So that's where we are with Ari and Bini. So communication issues, huge. I agree with what you said last week, April. I really do think that they should have brought in a translator. I feel like it's leaving Bini at a disadvantage. Cheating is an issue. Trust is an issue. And I don't think that Bini wants to be in this relationship anymore, period. That I think he's checked out. I think he has a new woman and he's living la vida loca in Vegas, and that's where he wants to go, and that's what he wants to do. That's where I feel like this relationship is.
I mean, both of them keep on saying we have to try and make the family work for our son, for Avi. And like, it's 2025, guys. I think that we all need to just admit to ourselves that trying to force a relationship for a child is never a good idea.
100%.
Never has a child grown up and said, I'm so glad that my parents stayed together no matter how much they argued and hated each other so that I could live with both of my parents. Yeah. Never has a child grown up and said that.
100%. 100%. So let's talk about their activity. We'll just do each couple. So their activity was the activity rock, you guys. And as you know, each person had to say what their issue was. And then they threw the rock in a backpack. They walked up a mountain. They talked about it. If they could compromise and communicate, then they get to throw the rocks. If not, they had to keep it and put it back in their backpack and bring it down the mountain. Now, for Ari and Bini, Ari's word was affection. Bini's word was respect. They had a moment in the mountains and threw the rocks. Do you think, you guys, and live chat, let us know, do you think that they should have thrown the rock or should they have kept the rocks because they haven't worked out their issues? What do you think, April?
They should have kept them rocks.
Facts. Kept the rocks because y'all had a 30-second great moment. He didn't even want to look into your eyes and hold your hands for 30 seconds. That should have been a red flag to you, that you are nowhere near you thinking that, hey, we're doing well. We're getting along. Kept the rocks. Like Dasha said, Dasha. No, they should have kept the rocks 100% because they're nowhere close to even touching iota of their issues at all. I actually think that this relationship is not going to make it.
It's not. And unfortunately, like, see, if she would just, she can't see this because of how hurt she is right now, but if she would just give him the passwords, then she would know whether he really wants to be here or not.
Right.
Because you can't even know for sure.
Agreed.
Right now it feels like he doesn't want her, but maybe that's because he's just so resentful of the control that she's placed on him. And we're talking about it in terms of like, it's just the passwords. But when he talked to Florian, when they were up on the mountain, he said, whenever she wants something, she just takes it by force. Mm-hmm. That's not just the passwords. That's obviously in relation to other things going on in their lives. So like, give him some autonomy, give him some control over his business and his life. And then if he wants to be with you, then he'll
be with you. But let's be real here. Again, love Ari, but I just think that this is not a match. I honestly think that, I'm just going to say it. I honestly think that she obviously has something about Africa, Ethiopia specifically, and that's close to her heart. And she's doing great things, and she thinks she's doing great things and all of that stuff. But there's also that fetish thing. And the example I'll give is, when someone who is not the same ethnicity as me says, "Oh, you're so beautiful for a Black girl." What does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Because to me, it sounds to me like you have some weird fetish and you differentiate between the colonizers and everyone else. And so you're beautiful for an Asian, you're beautiful for a Hispanic, you're beautiful for a Black person. Like, what? And I get that vibe a little bit from her. And unfortunately, I just think it's not okay. And that's not how you build a long-term lasting relationship. But again, I'm not an expert.
I actually like to think that single by choice people might be a little bit more expert on relationships, because otherwise we would just be with any old body.
I mean, yeah, I after you reach 30, you can't be a baby mama and you can't settle in a relationship, like, because you're too grown for those two things. So when you make a choice to be with someone, you're making that conscious choice. And if you're choosing not to because I don't know what's in the water in 2020, I don't know what's in the water for the last like few years, but for me, I feel like I guess I have to wait for the second round of men that get divorced, because this crew is like it's not the business. It's not the business. Like, what value are you bringing to my life besides nonsense and stress? And like, you guys know I'm a little private, so I'm not going to totally get into my business, but I will say this. There's one person that tries to like come back every so often. And then finally, towards the end of last year, told me like, hey, I'm working on myself. I'm going to therapy and all that stuff. And I said, that's great. I'm glad you're working on your therapy. Please don't circle back in 2025 when you have like 3-4 therapy sessions in thinking you're okay, because we're done. It takes
a lot more than that. It takes a lot more than that.
Plus, we're done. Like, I'm not circling back. I'm not moving.
No circling back.
So
you can hit him with what my treatment director used to say. Like, another little April tidbit you guys don't know. I used to work at a methadone clinic, and my treatment director would say, yes, you deserve a second chance.
Y'all, the way April throws out these crazy nuggets and then just keeps moving like it's a regular day is crazy to me. Like, not just registered. I don't know if it just registered for you all, but methadone. I was like, isn't methadone like drugs, crackheads, recovering?
Heroin, smack it packets.
I don't even know what that is.
Listen,
it sounds terrible.
There's a whole thing going on in South Georgia, North Florida right now with this. We could talk about it. You guys, if you want to see me talk about more of this kind of stuff, just come hang out with me on TikTok. I talk about all my lives there. But anyway, so yeah, I was working there, the more you know. And my treatment director would talk to people who were, upset with their family members because their family members didn't want anything to do with them anymore. And yes, Joslo. And he would tell them, yes, you do deserve a second chance, but they don't have to be the one to give it to you.
I love that. Now, because you open this Pandora's box, what was your role?
I was a counselor. So my undergrad was in criminal justice and criminology, and then I went to go work for
Same.
Yeah. So then I went to go work for an inpatient rehab facility in Tallahassee, which is right down the street from FSU. So I was working on my master's at the same time. And from there, that job only paid $9 an hour. And I had some clients who came in, or we had some residents, we called them residents, not clients, who came in and they had been previously at the methadone clinic for treatment before they came to us. And so I was like, well, let me go see what they pay. And they were paying like $12 an hour. So I applied and I got to be a counselor there. And the hours were way better because people like to come dose in the morning. So the hours were 6 to 2. And it was much better for finishing my master's degree.
Wow. That's amazing.
But I saw some wild stuff there. Wild stuff. Like, the closest that I've ever been to somebody who's like mega rich was working at the methadone clinic. We had a client, we called them by number when I worked there. I don't know if they still do it like that, but I had a client who had a trust fund and a lady from the bank would come to make her payments for her methadone treatment and like get her records to make sure she was in compliance to be able to continue using her trust fund.
That's wild.
Wild, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry guys, long tangent.
But you know, we have to know. You can't just throw things out there and just be like, "Oh, no questions, not taking any questions right now."
Whatever you want to know about it, I will talk about it. And one of my sisters always says that I'm boring now, and I had better stories when I worked at the methadone clinic.
All right, Rob and Sophie. Josh has been hitting on Sophie. I don't care what you say. He likes her. He wants to be with her. So Rob and Sophie are having that whole discussion. Josh slid into her DMs, invited her to Vegas. We know that whole thing. And so it's interesting because Rob and Sophie, I feel like they have such highs and such lows. They have such moments. It's quite crazy. So they were having a moment where they bonded over Josh flirting with her, and that made them closer. And they felt like they weren't the worst couple there. But then fast forward, Rob finds out about Caleb and says that Sophie's been lying to him this whole time, and she slept with him, and she lied to his face. And so their whole activity was totally, completely thrown off, and they were fighting the whole time. And the therapist, what's his name? I don't remember the therapist's name. Do you?
Yeah, I didn't write his name down.
James.
Okay.
So James had to be the mediator for their activity. So there was that whole thing. I do want to talk about how all the women don't like Florian, but we'll get to that because I love Florian. I think he's like the business.
He's funny.
And then so their activity started off bad because of the lying and him accusing her of sleeping with him. First of all, what do you think about all that? If that was in her way past, is it a problem, you guys, that she lied about it or didn't tell him? I don't think she necessarily lied. I think she just left it out. And so by leaving it out.
Yeah, she lied. But I want to say something else really quickly before I start talking about Rob and Sophie. I think that
Bye, Dasha.
Bye, Dasha. I think if you want to be in a relationship with somebody, like you're here to like work on your relationship, I think you should start by assuming the best about the other person. So when Rob saw her put compassion on her rock and he immediately bristles, like, how dare she put compassion? But then we hear her talking about why she put compassion. And she said, we both need to work on this. It's something that we, I could learn, I could try more to understand where he's coming from, and he can try, like, she's talking about what they could both do, but he immediately bristles up. So like, why aren't you assuming the best about your partner, Sophie? Why aren't you assuming you saw the word compassion? Why did you immediately assume something negative about it? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I want to say. Now, secondly, Sophie did lie. She did lie. She insisted she wanted this friend of hers to come and visit. And she has this friend in his face, in his space talking to him. And she's actively told this person, lie to my husband about the history of our relationship. So to me, it's not about the fact that it happened years ago. It is the active lie to my husband and be in his face. Like, the idea that you think it's okay to tell one of your friends to lie to me and then I'm hosting them, that would make me really angry.
No, I agree with you with that. I do. But I also, didn't she say they got together when they were like 14?
Right. I mean, it is in the way past. So if she just told him, yeah, my friend Callum's coming, we did used to be in a relationship. Obviously, it's nothing now. Years have passed. We're just friends. But she didn't do that. Instead,
but she's not mature enough. She's not mature enough to have even thought of that, in my opinion. I think she's still young. She's still trying to find herself. And I think Sophie's biggest issue is that she runs away from problems. She can't confront something, which is part of their communication issues. Rob wants to bulldoze
Bulldoze.
right into the issue. And sometimes the delivery is off. But Sophie just wants to run. Anytime she's confronted, she thinks if she runs away, she'll get away from the problem. But you know what? The saying, I believe, and you guys know how I am with sayings, but I think the saying is something like, everywhere you run, there you are.
I think that is how it goes.
Oh, yay me. It's probably the first saying I ever got right. And Jocelyn's not correcting me, so I'm sure it's right. But that you can't continue to run away from your problems. And unfortunately, I think that's where they get caught in their relationship. For their activity, obviously, they did terrible in the beginning. And for them, compassion was Sophie's word and transparency was Rob's word. And they threw the rock. Do you think that they should have thrown the rock?
I think it was okay because Rob said that he just wanted an apology or some acknowledgement. Now, if he still holds it against her after this point, then that means that wasn't really what he wanted. But that's what he said he wanted.
Ty agrees with you. She says, I agree with you, April. I think that's what he's got mad about. Not the act of being with a friend, but the act of lying and not owning up to it.
Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a secondary issue. Maybe the secondary issue is I don't actually want to be around somebody that you did have sex with, even if it was a long time ago, which is also valid.
Is it?
I think that's also valid. Like if we lived in the same neighborhood, that's a different issue, you know, and we're going to run into each other at the grocery store or whatever. But to have somebody come from another country that you used to have a sexual relationship with, no matter how long ago it was, I'm not sure I'd be interested in that either. Would you?
That sounds crazy a little bit. If it was like 20 years ago and that person's visiting from your home country and you guys remain friends, you guys have been friends for, let's say, 15 of those years, and your partner doesn't want to meet that person because you guys had sex 20 years ago, I don't know. It seems weird to me.
I mean, it would be a conversation, right? It wouldn't be an automatic, like, right? Just don't have this person. I think it might be worth a conversation, but that's the conversation they couldn't have because Sophie didn't even tell Rob the truth. I have friends who are, here's another April nugget. I have friends who are polyamorous, you know, like they have multiple partners.
Oh Lord.
And they will say they'll say like, I'm okay with meeting your friends, but I don't want to meet any of your sex partners, you know?
And
like
that's different. I think that's different.
It's like different people have different kind of boundaries and you could just have like a conversation about that. But I don't, let me think. I'm dating this gorgeous tall man from Algeria. Ugh, beautiful.
Dating or married to?
Oh, I'm married. Okay, let's say I'm married. And he says, I have some friends coming to visit. One of them is a girl that I used to be girlfriend, boyfriend with, and we had sex when I was in middle school or high school. Do I want to meet her? No.
Oh. I'm the opposite. I'm like, bring her. Let's see what this is all about. Let's see what your type was, all of that stuff. But you know, again, I'm definitely no expert, you guys. Not married, so don't listen to me.
Joslo doesn't want to meet her either. Maybe that's not what you're saying no to.
No, she's saying no to. I'm not meeting her.
Oh yeah. Like
Becca says, Sophie knew Rob would be upset about it, so she kept it from him. Should Rob be more understanding? Yes. Should Sophie be more forthright? Also, yes. I agree with you, Becca.
Becca, 2 points for your maturity. You are correct.
That part. I think that I'm just like, you know, I grew up with all brothers, and so I see the shenanigans, and I just feel like I put my energy elsewhere. And some of the things are like, okay, like no, I just think that it's fine if you communicate about it, and if you say, hey, this is the situation, are you okay with that? And if you're okay with it and I'm okay with it, then great. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my partner should know me, and especially if I'm married to them, they should know me, they should know my history, the ins and outs. Just like Florian said, I know how many times you breathe in a day.
Love that quote.
That's the type of relationship I want. So if
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
that some random dude that I dated 20 years ago, which you guys, by the way, is like crazy to me. I don't know. You Americans start like really too early as far as I'm concerned. But that's another story.
Sophie's British.
Oh, that's true. Okay, the Brits. Okay, the Brits. What y'all doing?
I feel like we're more prudish about sex than Europeans.
I don't know what's going on, but she's in her 20s, and that's someone that she got with when she was 14.
Mm-hmm.
That seems a little young.
I mean, it does sound young just because I'm old now, but I don't actually know what's the like most common age that people start having sex. I have no idea.
I think it's 16 or 17.
16 or 17?
I think. I don't know. I'm making that up, but that sounds about right to me.
Okay. The statistic of Linda.
Yeah, there's no scientific facts. I didn't look it up. I just took it off the top of my head. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Josh and Natalie. Let me tell you something. Josh is a gaslighter. Josh doesn't want to be with Natalie at all. Josh holds this relationship in her face and manipulates her every single moment that he gets. And I know it's not this episode because I watched all the episodes, but I do want to make a point because it's important. The point is this. When she was discussing and communicating the issues she had with him, and he decided that he was just going to kiss her so that she shut up, I was so pissed off at that moment. I was like, see, this is the issue right here. He gaslights her. She's starving for attention. She's starving for a relationship. She's starving for a family, and you know her weaknesses, and you're just going to take advantage of that. It's ridiculous. So they say that the relationship is not bad. They have great sex. Unfortunately, they fight 75% of the time, but the rest of the time when they're having sex, their relationship is great. However, all the red flags are here. So she's never been to his house. And again, I'm still confused from last week. You have been in on again, off again relationship for 3 years and you've never been to his house. Like, there's just no way. And maybe that's why I'm not married, but like, I'm not wasting 3 years of my life and have never been to your home. Like, that is not happening. I'm going to tell you this right now. If we're dating and we're exclusive and it's been a month, I better have seen your house. I'm not saying I have to meet your family. If you have kids, your brother, your sister, your grandmama, I'm not saying all of that. I'm saying I need to know where you live, and I need to have walked into your place because I need to know if you're nasty, dirty. I need to know actually if you have a roof over your head. I need to know that you're not married and have a whole family living up in that house, which is what I think Josh is. I think Josh lives with his ex-wife and their kids. That's why she can't go there. I need to also know if you have like a roommate. I need to know if like you do your dishes. Like, I need to know.
I mean, and let's be honest, most guys will want you to come to their house if they're serious about you anyway, because they're lazy. They want you to come to their house.
Right. Like, that's the date. Come over. We'll Netflix and chill. So the simple fact that he doesn't want to do that with her says a whole lot to me.
Yep.
So a lot of issues to work out. And one of the things that also made me mad in this episode is the fact that she wants a relationship. She wants a family. She's made it very, 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 very clear. Josh is 43 and he's telling her that he feels rushed after 3 years. You feel rushed after 3 years? You've known her intentions since day one, and yet here you are still messing with her. And if that's not what you want, then say that's not what you want and move on and separate and go your merry ways. But because you keep stringing her along, because in my opinion, they probably have great sex, because like I told you last week, having sex with a crazy person is like, there's no comparison. There really is not. So that part pissed me off. And then the part that I was not clear about, in April, maybe you saw it, but because, I take excellent notes. So Natalie's word was access. I don't know what Josh's word was. What he did say was, if we make it through these 3 weeks, then I will give you access to my house and you can come over. What kind of cockamamie effort? That's like the blur. Nonsense is that? Let me tell you something. I want to go all the way off, but I won't because it's YouTube. But I will say this. That is some BS. That is some BS. If we make it through the 3, what happened to the last 3 years? Because you know what? He's going to say we didn't make it. You can't come over. All right, April, your turn.
First of all, the first thing I noticed about Josh is that he doesn't even speak to Sophie from last week. So if there was any doubt, I don't think there is, but if there was any doubt that he did not have any genuine friendly intentions when he reached out to her, that sealed the deal. Because if you truly were like, oh, I reached out to her as a friend or as a fellow guest on the 90 Day Fiancé franchise, then you would have at least said hello. But the fact that you avoided her means you're scared that she's here and you're scared she's going to say something about what you did, I also hate men like Josh, the whole category of men who that you don't want to be in a real relationship. And you could choose to be with women who also don't want to be in committed relationship because those women are out there. But instead, you're wasting the time and eggs of a person who quite clearly has stated that they want to have a family. And I think regardless of how much she comes back to you and begs for you, if you are a grown man, you need to be responsible enough to say to that person, I'm not going to string you along. This relationship is done because I know what you want and I know that I cannot give that to you. I'm not interested in that with you right now. Yeah. And no matter how much that person persists, it is your responsibility as an adult, whether you're the man or the woman in the relationship or the they in the relationship, to stop stringing that person along.
That part. Listen, it's 2025. Ladies, I mean, I get it. What you want is what you want. Like, I've always wanted to get married and settle down. But what I'm not about to do is I'm not about to humiliate myself and hold on to any crazy relationship just to say that I'm in a relationship. Because I'll tell you, there are a lot of women out there, and, I'm sorry to call you out, but here we are, that would rather be in a terrible relationship that is not giving them any joy just to say that they're in a relationship. They'd rather not say, and then, women of a certain age, whatever age that is, I'm not even sure, that are single by choice because they're not going to settle. Listen, I have more respect for you women than women who are like, oh, I'm in this relationship. I haven't seen my husband in 2 years because, he lives in Africa and he's working for our future. No, that fool has a full-on other family. Or I haven't, gone to my boyfriend's house in 3 years because I don't have access. Well, listen, you're a beautiful young woman. There are plenty of men who love crazy and who love beautiful crazy. And you could just go ahead and continue to date until you find the person that is like, hey, yeah, I want to hang with this crazy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. And I don't even care for Natalie. I don't care for something that she's going to do later on. It really makes me question whether or not she might have some racist undertones to her. But even though I don't care for her.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
I think that the way in which she goes after Sophie is in part racial. I have zero evidence of this. Yeah. It is just the way that I feel when she talks about her.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that you say it, yes, I agree, because she doesn't attack any of the other beautiful women the way she attacks Sophie. I agree with you 100%. Yep. Yep.
And even though I don't like that, what I think that I see in her, I still think it's sad to see someone who is as beautiful and seemingly as intelligent as she is to fall for someone um, like Josh, who is not treating her well. I I I feel like because a lot of us are still under a certain amount of patriarchy, we haven't shed it within ourselves. We still don't see our value. When I say we, I'm talking about women. We still have a hard time seeing our value outside of being in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that she struggles with that. I think that she struggles with it societally and based on her religion. I truly do think that because of her religious beliefs, she has a hard time moving on from someone that she had sex with. I think that she's more inclined to try and stay with someone that she had sex with to force it to work out because she doesn't want to increase her numbers. That
Yeah.
she sees that as like increasing her sin or decreasing her value to do
Yeah.
that, as opposed to just moving on and trying to establish a new relationship.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for women who I see caught up in that kind of thought process, which leaves them vulnerable to men like Josh.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And also, just throwing in there that, this is not her first rodeo. She's been married 3 other times before. So I do think that she uh, gets her value as a woman from being married. And that just ties into everything else that you just said. And it's unfortunate because I think that she definitely needs to work on herself. Because also, I mean, again, this is a few episodes later, but she just screams mean girl vibes. And, you know, again, Jocelyn would have another saying, and the saying I believe is hurt people hurt people. That's what she does. She needs to work on her brokenness because it pours out. And even back with Mike and her attacking his mom and all of that stuff, it's stuff that she hasn't worked out within herself. And so the only way she knows to defend herself is to lash out, and she never takes accountability for the simple fact that, you know what, you need to work on yourself. All right, Brandon and Julia, I'm going to let you go first. What were your thoughts about Brandon and Julia this episode? Basically, their communication is their issue. Family is their issue. Baby is their issue. Immigration is their issue, which is why I want you to start first. And, what I wrote down here is that Julia, kudos to her when she said, I packed your socks and your panties. I'm not your mom. Like, you need to pack your own crap.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on them?
So my immigration thought on them is that I'm pretty sure Julia is a citizen now. If she's not a citizen, she's definitely eligible to be one because you only need 3 years of residency married to apply for citizenship. So she should be a citizen by now. And given that she is a citizen, she can petition for her parents. But I think when she says she wants Brandon's help, that what she's talking about is the affidavit of support. She probably doesn't make enough money on her own to be a sole sponsor for her parents to come to the US. So that's probably what she's talking about. Now, that aside, I don't care for their relationship, because they stayed together after the initial season that they were on. I thought maybe he grew up and things got better. But when he makes the comment, just in case you guys haven't seen it, he wants a baby. She wants help getting her parents to the US. When she says, no, I don't want to compromise on a baby right now, then he says, well, if you won't compromise on a baby, then I won't help you with your parents. There shouldn't be tit for tat in the relationship. What he should consider is, if I help her get her parents here and she's not homesick and she has more help, perhaps she would be more inclined to go forward with the child. He doesn't even ask the question. When she says she's not interested in the baby right now, which we've seen her say like 3 times now, we don't see any follow-up from him What would make you more comfortable? What would make you happy? What's holding you back? So he just says, what's the compromise? There is no compromise. Like, how do you know what the issue is that's made her change her mind? You know, is it your childish ways? Is it because you can't even pack your own socks and she knows she's going to have 2 kids instead of 1? You know, we don't even know what it is that made her change her mind about not wanting kids anymore, because he doesn't bother ask the question. He just rather be tit for tat. So like, this shows me that despite the fact that we first met Brandon, like 7 years ago, that he hasn't really grown up.
Oh my God, April, we agree.
We agree.
Now I know for sure we are in end days. We are in end days. I do want to add to everything that April said, because I 100% agree. I do think also too that the simple fact that he also wanted to judge that her parents were no longer together like his parents, I think is super selfish. And I think it's selfish of him not to think about how he's literally a mama's boy and he has the support of his family, probably lives down the street still. They lived at the farm, all of that stuff. So he has 100% support and family. And as someone who is living away from family that is not close, I get where she's coming from. She wants to have that same support that he has, and the fact that he can't see that or refuses to see that and then puts a judgment on it like, oh, it would be a disaster. Well, how do you know it would be a disaster? Because you're reaping and sowing from your family, and she's saying, hey, I'm lonely. I'm here by myself. I miss my mom. I miss my dad, which are completely legitimate.
Valid.
Yes, reasons to say, hey, listen, I want to bring my family over. I want to feel supported. And guess what? Okay, I'm not a parent, but I do know this. I have family who has children, a lot of children, okay? It does take a village. My mom babysits for my siblings' children. It takes a village. My brother's wife's mom babysits for the children. Like, it does take a village. So can you imagine? She says, hey, yes, I'm going to compromise. Let's have a kid. Who is going to be her support system? Yeah, Brandon's mom is there. Yeah, Brandon's dad is there. But who does she have? Because guess what? The mom is going to need some nurturing herself. She's going to need some support herself, because having a kid is not easy. Having a kid is a full-time job. So I get where she's coming from. And the fact that her husband doesn't see that is very disappointing to me, and also shows me that he's completely a mama's boy. And last week when I told you I read a fun fact that most men don't mature till they're 43 years old. It's very, very, very sad to me.
Yeah. Also, like, on a broader note, not specific to their relationship, but on a broader note, if you are an American who's bringing an immigrant to the United States, if you don't have any sympathy for the fact that you've taken this person away from their entire community, if you expect them to still function in the same personality and happiness that they were in their own country when you guys met on vacation, that's really short-sighted of you. That's extremely short-sighted of you. You are no longer in your streets. You're no longer in your smells. You're no longer in your language. Forcing someone to speak English all day, every day is hard. And you need to have a lot more sympathy and understanding for that. Also, not just about them, but childbirth is difficult. It is the closest that you can get to death and survive. You should never, ever, ever, ever try to force someone or ask someone to go through that process while not providing them with every single ounce of support you could possibly provide.
Agreed. Oh my God, we're 2 for 2, April. I don't know what's going on. It's the apocalypse. I'm not sure, but woo! Okay. I'm really looking forward to the last 2 here.
Okay.
Did we talk about their words? We didn't.
We didn't.
So Brandon's word was baby, and
right.
Julia's word was.
Actually, we did talk about their words, kind of.
Yeah, we did kind of. So Brandon wants a baby. Julia wants her parents in the U.S. and she's going to do it by any means necessary. All right, Gino and Jasmine. There's so much, you guys, like, there's so much. We're gonna just touch the surface, but there's so much. I wish I knew a sex therapist, and if one of y'all in the live chat or someone watching is a sex therapist and wants to come on the show, please reach out to me because I
Don't understand.
have all the things to say and I would love to have an expert back me up. But because I don't, and you guys know how I am, I'm just gonna talk anyways. So some of the issues that Gino and Jasmine are having is that Jasmine leaves the house and spends nights away from the house, doesn't tell Gino where she is. When he asks, she says she's with a friend. They're fighting about her independence and they're fighting about him financially supporting her. They fought a lot this episode, and last episode they cussed each other out and in my opinion disrespected each other, and I cannot be with a husband or a wife or a partner who would literally cuss me out the way these two talk to each other. Like I just wouldn't have it. Like I just didn't grow up like that, and I've never been in a relationship like that, and so it's very alarming to me. I feel like that is like opening a Pandora's box. Once you accept this type of communication, then where do you go from there if you don't try to fix it? Anyways, that being said, Jasmine wants Gino to buy her a car. She wants to get her license. She wants more independence. And to her, having a car and going where she wants to go when she wants to go, that is independence to her. I do want to remind you guys that they met on a sugar daddy, sugar baby site. So her expectations are within the realm of the relationship. Gino does feel like he's been supporting her financially, and especially when she was still in Panama. And so he feels like he's been there, so he doesn't see what the problem is. The biggest thing is, like you guys know, they haven't had sex in 8 months. They've only been married for 9 months. And I personally think that Gino has some type of sexual dysfunction that he is not dealing with. And we know about like the little blue pills from before, but now it seems like it's deeper, and including that he watches those videos, right? Like he's an OF kind of guy. And there's no stopping that. So throwing all of that together, I do think that there's a lot of sexual dysfunction here. And in a relationship, I do think that women do take it personally when their partner rejects them. It seems like rejection. It seems like they are not wanted. It seems like it can really mess with their confidence about where they are in this relationship. And unfortunately, because we are such nurturers, we take on all of that stuff. And so Jasmine is looking at it like rejection when really the issue is him, right? Because she is trying to bond with her partner in the ways that I always tell you is important in a relationship. However, he is pushing her away and saying that his reasoning is because they fight all the time. Well, you know, you can fight and have makeup sex, and that's like an amazing thing, but he doesn't even want to do that. So that's the gist of their thing. Do you want to go first, April?
I mean, what I said earlier about marrying an immigrant and bringing them to the US and them being away from their home and everything else applies to them as well. She can't even get to the gym. We saw in an episode, I don't know, like 2 seasons ago, where she just wanted to go to the gym and he just drove straight past the gym and went home because he didn't feel like dropping her off there and coming back to pick her up. You know, that's a huge imposition on the kind of independence that she lived with previously. And that probably makes it difficult. Now, at this point, I don't know if they're in a real relationship anymore. Like, what is going on here?
That's a whole...
Yeah, Gino. Hey, Maddie.
Tanya, what up, Tanya? Tanya, you are late. You missed a lot. You're gonna have to watch the replay. Too much to catch up on. But Tanya says, my theory on Gino and Jasmine, the more Gino rejects her sexual advances, the more it turns her on. I also think too that the name calling turns them on. Some couples enjoy the toxicity.
But wouldn't there be a release at some point? Wouldn't it be like, oh, we argued and now we're gonna smash? Like that's
That's
what young
it.
people
That's the
say,
part.
right? But
But so the
they
part that's
don't do that.
missing, Tanya, is that they haven't had sex in 8 months and they've been married for 9. So that's the part that's the loose wheel. I will say this, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate with you, April. Excuse me, you guys. As someone, and especially as a world traveler that you are, April, I don't think. So I'll say this, as someone that has lived in many cities, in many countries myself, I didn't always have a car, and I still managed to live my life and get around, whether that meant taking a bus, taking a train, now with Uber and Lyft and all the ride share services that are out there. My concern is, if Gino is already paying for everything anyways, why can't she assert some more independence and then go ahead and do those things? I think just because you don't have a car or a license does not cap you from being independent. If you live in New York City, I know grown adults who have never had a license, because guess what? They take the train everywhere, or they take a ghost car, or they take an Uber or whatever, and they're fine and they're living their dandy lives. So that part was a little confusing to me. So if independence means to you, you want a license and a car to go do the things, why can't you also use the other ways of mass transportation that are out there? It's confusing to me.
Do they live in a city that has it? Because it
they're in
doesn't look
Michigan,
like
right?
they're in Michigan, but there are a lot of cities in Michigan outside of Detroit, and they don't all have public transit. I grew up in a city that didn't have public transportation. So
they don't have public transportation or Uber or Lyft or rideshares?
So Uber, Lyft, rideshare type companies, depending on how big the city is, they might have those. In the city that I come from, we can get like Uber Eats. But if I want to Uber to the gym or something, that might not be as easy, because I can't schedule that. It's just like I might end up at the gym waiting for an hour for a car to be available to take me home, because it's a small town. But even if they're in a town that has that readily, she doesn't have the money for it. She said he won't give her any money.
Listen, set up an Uber account and go ahead and put his credit card information in, and that's your husband.
You also have some people, like I'm in DC now, so I can take the train anywhere that I want to go, or there's a bus that's generally available like in city limits and right outside outskirts of Maryland and Virginia. But there are some people who turn their nose up at public transportation. They think it's only for poor people. I've suggested to my clients before, when they ask, how to get to court, I'll be like, oh, I take the 26A, or, I take the red line. And they'll be like, oh, that you want me to get on the bus?
I'm just saying, like, okay, so Tanya says in her area, if you need a ride, it's going to cost a lot of money. Okay, I understand that, but I just feel like if there's a will, there's a way. And I know it because I've lived it. And I've lived in, there's a will, there's a way. Make a friend at the gym. If you're spending so much time talking to Matt from the gym, have Matt come pick you up and bring you to the gym. Like, there's a will, there's a way. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying she's right for Matt. I'm just saying. Okay?
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand. I've had to make things happen too. But I think that there's a misconception that the US has ready public transportation in a lot of places, and we don't. Like,
y'all need to fix that then.
That's another thing to be aware of from an immigrant perspective. Like, depending the person that you're marrying, you really need to investigate where they live, where you're going to be living in the future. Don't assume don't assume that it's like US cities that you see on TV, because more of the US is rural with no public transportation, living in a food desert where you're not going to get any fresh food. It's all going to be like processed food, than the cities that you see on TV.
I'm going to tell you guys something, and don't hold it against me, because I know you guys like to hold things against me, but also remember that I'm Canadian. Okay. So be kind. So fun fact, I cannot stand, cannot stand Chick-fil-A. And my coworkers love Chick-fil-A. If they could have Chick-fil-A for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they would have Chick-fil-A for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they always make fun of me, and I kind of make fun of them because it's such like a polar opposites. And for example, this is a true story. I'll bring in kiwis. Kiwis from Australia that are a little bit, I don't know if you guys have had them, but they're a little bit lighter.
The golden kiwi?
Yeah, lighter gold color. They're super delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at me like, what is this? They didn't like them. I brought in pomegranates. And when someone brings you pomegranate, it's good luck, right? And my coworker's like, what is this? I've never even had this. What is it? And so over the holidays, I brought apple pie, and it was like this brown sugar apple pie. And then I got to our offices, and then I ended up giving it to the concierge because in my mind, I was like, anything that I bring these people, they don't like it. So I'm just going to give it to someone else who I think will enjoy it. Fast forward, they're like, you brought a what? Normally you're bringing all this healthy crap. You got an apple pie? Clearly, we would not have said no to that. Oh my God, I'm a mess.
They wanted the pie. Can we bring down what Becca said up here? She said she hasn't seen her passport.
Becca said, she also said she hasn't seen her passport since arriving in the U.S., but who knows how true that is.
I want to make a note about this. I don't know what exactly Jasmine meant when she said that, but one of the biggest signs of trafficking is if somebody takes your documents away from you. So if you out there are in a situation where you've arrived to the US and somebody has taken away your passport or other identity documents, you need to kind of look and see, are there other signs happening here that I'm being forced to provide sex and or labor without payment, or somebody's controlling my movement because you may be in a trafficking situation.
And also to jump in on that, I think also too in a loving relationship where your partner has brought you over to the United States, that is an absolute red flag. And I'm not saying it's a DV situation, but those red flags are flying out there that this person is trying to control you. You should never not have access to your important documents. You're a grown-ass person. So if that person is doing that to you, you need to really pay attention to what is happening in that situation. And I implore you to get another copy. I implore you to talk to someone like April and see what your options are. But you should never be in a situation where you can't walk away from a situation because you don't have your God-given documents.
Correct. Even as nice situations, if you're coming to the US to be a nanny for a family and the family's provided you with a room to live in and they're paying you, but they said, we need your passport and we need to know where you're coming and going at all times, that's not okay. Okay? That's a warning sign of trafficking. So even if it's nice, you still need to have your guard up.
That part. Okay, so Jasmine and Gino, I really do want to get into his sexual dysfunction, but we are going to move forward. But before we move forward, their words, and I didn't get Gino's word. I don't think he had a word because he got super upset because her word was independence. And then he freaked out from there because she said that he's a liar and a manipulator and he brought her over here for nothing and she is going to get her independence by any means necessary. So there's that. Last and certainly not least, April is Florian and Stacy.
Florian and Stacy, I want you guys to notice that while Stacy was having her episode, Florian was right there. He was right there. He was locked in. He was looking at her. He was like, this might be a little bit of an overreaction. I don't know what's going on, but I'm here. Okay?
And when he said, it's hard to see someone that you love hurting. I was like, yes. Why are you crying? He said, okay, if it's about trusting me, I'll work on it. I'll call you more. He gave her actionable solutions, not just the words like, oh, you stop crying or what do you do? Actionable words. And he also realized that, hey, I'm not going to change overnight, but baby steps. And if it means that I don't go out as late, then I won't go out as late. If it means that I need to call you every time, I'll call you. If it means that every time you call, I pick up, then I will do those. Actionable things. Okay? Actionable things. And then in that, because her word was trust and his word was listen, which if you guys remember from last week, she did say how she tends to talk over him because, again, as English as a second language, sometimes it's harder to get out the words quickly, right? Because you're also translating in your mind anyone that speaks another language. So instead of allowing him to finish his thought, it's easier for her to just get out what she thinks he's gonna say, which happens a lot, you guys. It happens a lot, right? Talking over people and not allowing them to finish their thought, especially if English is their second language. And so I thought it was interesting because they're locked into what their issues are. Her issue is trust. He cheated in the past. She doesn't trust him. Plus, I think that the age difference between them is affecting her a little bit. She realizes that he's younger, still maybe wants to party a little bit, and she's like, wants to do other things perhaps. And then his is, listen, you are doing all the most, and it's Darcy and Stacy, so they're extra. So she's going to be extra all the time, very dramatic. And he's like, but you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. And she's not, because she's already thought about what she thinks he's going to say and answered it for him and has moved on. So she's created a whole situation in her head that she hasn't even talked to her husband about. So I do think that these two are in no danger. They've been together for 7 years. I don't think he's going anywhere. I do think he really loves his wife.
I do too.
He may not be perfect in all ways. He may be an alpha male, but that also comes from where he comes from, and what he thinks like that whole male masculinity energy is about. But they will make it because they listen to each other. And what I love about this couple, and in my opinion is a green flag in a relationship, is when you go home and you debrief your issues, you debrief your night, you even talk about the other people that you were surrounded by, because you're communicating. And you don't see that with all the other couples. You do see it with them, like, hey, I think that the girls hate you. I think Julia and Jasmine and Sophie hate you. Can you not embarrass me? Why did they hate me? This person's too emotional and this person's crazy, and anything that Florian says, at least at the end of the day, they communicate, and he listens and she listens. And I think that that's what's important. And at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for here in the relationships, is communicating.
Right. So I'm officially calling myself a Floristan, a Florian stan.
I stand for Florian. Oh my God, I'm going to use that hashtag. Okay, so that's the clip right there. What is it? Florian stan?
Yeah, Floristan.
Floristan.
A Florian stan.
Right. You guys, when you see that on our socials, make sure to like. That is going to be a whole clip. Floristan, we stand with Florian.
Yes. Yes.
That's the episode, y'all. I love seeing all of the regulars up in here. I could eat Chick-fil-A every meal, every day. Hey, Maddie. Yeah, you and a lot of other people. It's just not for me. It's not for me. Do you like Chick-fil-A?
Not as, like, I could still eat it. But not as much as I used to. Like, I used to work at a video warehouse. I'm aging myself because it was like a Blockbuster type store, and it was across the street from a Chick-fil-A. And I would eat it every day, breakfast and lunch, if I had a full day shift. So I don't eat it like that anymore, but I can still eat it.
I just You guys don't even want to know. I just can't. I just don't like it.
Did it get too hyped up in your head before you had the first one?
Well, that's true, right? Everyone's saying how amazing it was and how like yummy the chicken was, and I was like, the waffle fries, they were the worst. They were super salty, and like you got like 2 waffles, and then the rest were like just the crumbles,
nibbles,
and you guys, you don't want me to get started. I don't want to, I don't want them to come for me, but I'm just saying I've had terrible experiences. I've tried it more than once just to make sure that I wasn't crazy, and it's just not for me. But if you love it, I love it for you.
It's okay.
That's it.
It's
okay.
Guys,
make sure to like and subscribe to April. Only thing I liked was the waffle fries. The fries were a soggy mess. Right, Tanya? See, we're off on a tangent. The last thing I want to tell you guys is I'm doing this Korean skincare, and I'm telling you, it's changing my life.
You look fantastic.
And I might have to just do a little something and get you on game, because when I finally found out about Korean skincare, by the way, it's very selfish of you guys to not have told me. And it's very, very inconsiderate. But I don't want to be that person. So I want to share with you guys. And these products are amazing, and they're not paying me at all. I just ran into some stuff, and my sister-in-law got me on game, and there's like a whole thing, you guys, and there's like a website that you can buy directly from Korea, and I'm there. So I might do a little series on that. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. Guys, we'll see you next week. I told you last week. Okay, Jaslo, I'm on it. We'll see you next week. Stay safe out there if you're in Southern California. Linda, do you have a refrigerator in your bathroom now?
That's right, Vanessa. Call her out.
I will say
Call her out.
I do not. However, one of the products that I use is a Korean collagen mask, and it's great to put them in the fridge. What I learned from my sister-in-law. And I did the mask last night. And if you guys watch my stories on Linda Is So Girlie, you'll see like that whole process. Oh, no, you won't, because I only put it to my private friends. Never mind. But it's amazing. Like, you guys, like, I can't explain to you. It's crazy. But maybe I'll do a little something. And Vanessa, thank you for the shade. Guys, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Do I have a refrigerator for my bathroom? What the? Y'all don't listen. I will never have any type of food, anything associated in my bathroom.